Hello, everyone. My name is Benjamin Taylor. Um, this meeting will start at 12 o'clock, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes to see if a few more people is going to join us. Um, just give me about one more minute. I'll start at 12:01 just to be sure. And we're about to learn about accessibility today. Okay, so I am going to start. For those who don't know, my name is Benjamin Taylor. I am the Digital Data and AI Project Manager for the SPDIG grant. When it comes to various digital, online, and technological aspects of the grant, I am in charge of and I help manage for our group here. And today I'm going to help you all learn a little bit more about digital accessibility. So the first question that we probably need to answer is what is exactly digital accessibility? So the definition of accessibility by Oxford Dictionary is if something is accessible, that means it can be reached, entered, used, or seen. So basically, it just means that someone has the ability to access it. For us, we inherently, humans, people, we inherently have some degree of accessibility between us because, just talking, speaking, seeing, those are different forms of interactions and accessibility that we have innately to ourselves. So much so that it's so common for us that we forget that other people who lack certain attributes, whether it be sight or another form of disability, may not have as accessible options for them when it comes to variety of different things in life. So one quick exercise that I have for us today is that imagine that you've seen a funny clip on social media and you're trying to share this joke with a random stranger. Well, what are some things that are important in order to be able to communicate why the joke is funny? So, some things that you guys may have thought about, and one of the most primary important things is that you're able to communicate. So imagine the person spoke a different language. If you speak English and they speak Spanish, you guys may not understand each other in order for you to communicate that joke. Because language is another form of accessibility, because a person has to be able to even understand you to access the content of what you're talking about. So for digital content itself has a language. You guys may have heard the sayings that computers are made up of one and zeros. That's binary code. That's a form of language that computers use to communicate to other components within itself. So you guys may have heard of a GPU or CPU or the hardware or hard drive of the computer. That's how a computer communicates to its other aspects of its components about what to do. If you everybody here is on a computer right now. So your laptop or your desktop has these various components within inside of it, and how it talks and communicates to one another, similar to our body. Our brain talks to our other organs in order to communicate its function. Your computer does something similarly with its various components. Well, another language that digital devices, so computers, laptops, smartphones, speak to one another to communicate information is HTML code. HTML code is the universal language that every software, program, website, apps, games, and any other digital item uses to communicate. HTML code is typically found in your web browsers, your phones, your gaming devices. It's basically used everywhere. So when you log on to Google, HTML code is used for you to see your picture on Google. Right now, HTML code is used on Teams, and that's how I'm able to communicate with you guys right now. And for screen readers, that's how they communicate to people with disabilities about what is on the screen and what is happening on the computer. They interpret HTML code to people with disabilities. So for those who may be a little bit unfamiliar with what HTML code looks like, here are some examples. If you have ever seen the two little triangles, and then you ever see HTML or heading 1, heading 2, body, you may have accidentally clicked a button on your computer and this pops up and you get really scared. All of these symbols and letters indicate something on a website or indicate something on the screen that needs to be interpreted by a screen reader and by your computer in order to display what you're seeing properly. So right now in Teams, there's an HTML code that indicates my square for you to see me, and that indicates this presentation for you to see the presentation. And what screen readers do is read that information and convey it to people who are typically have disabilities related to sight. So there are different types of screen readers. The definition of a screen reader is they are a form of assistive technology to help people with disabilities understand what a website, document, program, or other digital content is displaying. Screen readers interpret HTML code for their, they interpret HTML code information to their users. So what we're trying to do here today is make sure that our PowerPoint presentations are coded correctly in order to be interpreted properly by somebody who has a visual disability. These are just examples of some of the most popular screen readers. I know today we're working with mainly PowerPoint, but in the future, if you ever need to double check to see if you're if you have like a Word file or a Google Docs or Sheets or Excel file, if you ever want to check like how somebody with a visual disability is interpreting or understanding your content, you can download these free screen readers. There's a Windows one, Microsoft, and then other third-party ones that you can download to double check to see how a screen reader is interpreting your content. So digital accessibility for us today is mainly going to mean that our content is accessible by a screen reader. So today I'm going to teach you all how to do that properly. So how to make a PowerPoint accessible, these are the main factors when it comes to making a PowerPoint accessible. You need to make sure your images have alt text. You have unique slide titles. Links are formatted correctly. Any tables that you have headers. You need to make sure that the reading order is set. The color contrast is appropriate. There's not too much text and that the text is legible. These are the main things that people miss when crafting a PowerPoint presentation. So today we're going to go over these categories to make sure that you guys are aware. So alt text. Alt text is a little confusing, so I'm going to try my best to explain this because it can be difficult. Alt text varies depending on its context. I just want you guys to know that right now. But the definition of alt text is, it's also known as alternative text, is a descriptive text that conveys the meaning of an image and digital content. It is designed to make visual content accessible to people with vision disabilities. While there are other benefits of alt text for all users, the video focuses on people who use screen readers. If you need more information, please view this alt text best practice page from the University of Harvard's website. So on my presentation, I have it linked to this page that Harvard provides about accessibility, and you guys will have access to my slides later. But let me share this with you all. We're going to go to that page real quick to give you guys an example of alt text. Just give me a second. Give me 1 second there. Okay. You all should be able to see my screen right now. So alt text is a description of the image based on the context of the writing surrounding it. So what Harvard says is, when writing in alt text, consider the context of where and how the image is being used. The surrounding text of the document, website, or email may affect which parts of the image are most important to describe. In this example, the image of one of their buildings and the Harvard Yard is used in 2 different contexts, and this means that it requires 2 different forms of alt text, or 2 different types of alt text. So here in this first case, they have this picture of the exact same building, and then the alt text for this one is "Spring is here." That highlights that students enjoy the nice weather at the building, versus in this one, it's the famous residence hall, Hollis Hall. Because in case 1, they're trying to describe in this context about the weather, versus in this context is being described about the building itself. Is there any questions about alt text before we move on? Because I know this one is probably going to be the most confusing. Okay, I guess we'll move on. Unique slide titles. Every slide must have its own individual title. So if you guys are not aware, when you create a PowerPoint, it gives you the option to so let me make a new slide. It says click to add a title at the very top. So this title at the very top needs to be your largest font on a PowerPoint slide, because it's the heading of the PowerPoint slide, but also it needs to have its own unique title that is different from every other page in order to indicate which page it is for somebody who isn't able to see the pages. This just helps outline where people are within your presentation who are not able to actually see the presentation itself. Oh, sorry. The next thing that is important is reading order, to make sure that the reading order is set. Reading order basically means how would a screen reader read the content that you have on your page. So typically, by default, screen readers read from left to right. In order to change that, you have to indicate that to the screen reader by modifying here in PowerPoint how you want it to read. So right now on the page, if I didn't have any reading orders set, it would read left to right. And clearly I have this A symbol and I want to make it read down. And then go to the B's and read down, and go to the C's and read down. But without me setting the reading order, it'll just read A, then all these B's, and then all these C's. And then come back down and read all the A's, the B symbol, and then all these C's. So in order to change the reading order, all you would have to do is click the accessibility tab at the bottom. This accessibility tab in PowerPoint is going to be your most helpful tool. It's an accessibility assistant, so it's pretty good at outlining everything you need to make your PowerPoint accessible. It's connected to all the slides that you have in your presentation, and it's going to tell you if there's something wrong or something that needs to be changed or fixed in order to make your whole presentation accessible. So when I click the accessibility button at the very bottom, it gives you also access to the shape format and the accessibility tab. So we click on the accessibility tab and it shows you the reading order pane. Click on that and it shows you your reading order for your screen readers. So I have a decorative image right here on the right side and a decorative image here on the lower left side for the Oklahoma, the State Department's logo. So decorative images, if they're not marked, it's okay because screen readers don't read them typically anyway. But you need to make sure that you're, if you have an image that doesn't have alt text, that it is marked as decorative. Otherwise, if it's not marked as decorative, then it's inaccessible. So for the reading order, the very first thing in your reading orders should always be your title, because it should always be the first thing that is read or seen visually on your presentation in order for it to be accessible. It's supposed to convey what this whole page is about and what people are about to consume in terms of information. Secondly would be what's under that. And then afterwards, see how I have it set up. Now it's going to read the order in which I want it to, because I have it set for the image of the A at the very top. And then below that, now it should read all these A's at the bottom. Then it goes back up to the B's, and then down to the B symbol, then up to the C symbol, and then down to the C letters. And lastly, it's just a decorative image. But unless you convey that to PowerPoint, like I said, by default, it just reads left to right. So you need to make sure that you make those changes within PowerPoint for it to do so. And when it comes to your reading order, if you see right now, I'm able to move content, and you just need to make sure that you move your content into the right place, and that is check marked so that a screen reader is able to, so that screen reader will read it within the right order and the right content. Is there any questions about the reading order in PowerPoint? Okay. We need to make sure that all tables, if you have any, are first legible, so able to be read, but also that they have a title. You see here, I have a table about fruit, types of fruit and the number of fruit in stock. We need to make sure that the title of the table reflects the information in the table. And clearly here it says fruit stock chart. Some people just forget, but in order for it to be accessible, it has to have a title for your tables that you embed into your PowerPoints. Another big one is to make sure that your links are formatted properly. A lot of times people would just either embed a video into the PowerPoint presentation, or they would try to just leave a link. When it comes to making links accessible, you have to have it properly set up. So what to do is basically you need to shorten the URL and to make sure that it identifies within the hyperlink itself what a person can expect by clicking on this link. So an example that I have here, instead of just putting our SPDIG website URL, I put, for more information about Oklahoma SPDIG, please visit the SPDIG webpage on the Oklahoma State Department of Education's website. By reading this, a person can convey exactly what is about to happen once they click on the link. The information given, both before and after, gives a description of what they can expect to go, and then the link itself also indicates where they are about to go. Is there any questions about how to format a link properly? Okay, so just once again, to make sure, the URL cannot just be a copy and paste of the URL itself. It needs to indicate where a person is about to be sent to once they click on the URL. And preferably, there's a little bit of either a sentence before or a sentence after that indicates where the person can also expect to be going and maybe the content that they're about to be consuming. Color contrast is important. PowerPoint actually offers a built-in color contrast with its accessibility button. So if you're ever unsure about, is my colors, if they match well enough or they contrast well enough to be utilized, always refer to your accessibility button at the very bottom. But basically, color contrast is important because people who have visual disabilities, it may make it tougher for them to be able to read your presentation. So you always just want to make sure that you have high levels of contrast because it makes your content more legible. And then if you ever have any issues with that, like I said, you can always, it will indicate to you using this the accessibility assistant that is the case. But there's also third-party websites that you can type in on Google, just talking about color contrast, that you can use a drag and drop tool to one of those droplets you see in Paint to see your color contrast, to see if it's accessible for other documents as well, if you need that resource. Another big issue that we run into is too much text. Try to be very concise and try to not have way too much text on one page. It's okay to have multiple slides to continue on a thought. In this case, you can see that there's a lot of words on this page that goes over the image, which is probably bad for contrast, first off. Second of all, with this many words on the page, it just makes it very, very hard for somebody with a visual disability to understand exactly what's going on. So rule of thumb is to make sure that there's plenty of space in between your text and to make sure that the amount of text that you have on the page isn't too much to where it's making it harder for people to understand what's going on. I know that everybody likes to be creative, but we need to also make sure that our text is legible. Font like this, I forget what the exact name is, but I know it's, font like this makes it very, very tough for people to also read. And so we need to be very mindful about which type of text that we're using. your typical aerials, time New Roman are perfectly fine. And the ones that look similar to that are perfectly fine. It's just we need to be very mindful that, once again, that we're being accessible to other people. Lastly, I'm just going to talk about the accessibility checker. This is just another way to find it if you need it. If you go to File, Info, then click on Check for Issues, and then click on Check Accessibility, it pops up your accessibility assistant. You can also do the same thing by clicking at the very bottom where it says Accessibility Investigate, and also pull up the exact same bar or tool on the side that helps you check for accessibility on PowerPoint. And this page just talks about that as well. And then for any more additional resources, I have another PowerPoint accessibility YouTube video that I have linked in this presentation. If you're not able to reach out to me, or if you just want more information about accessibility on PowerPoint, I have this video linked here from the accessibility guy. He's a YouTuber who covers a lot of covers accessibility for different programs, and he's a good resource to also have when it comes to accessibility. But that is all that I have for you guys today. Are there any questions about anything that you heard today?
Benjamin, if we're having a presentation for OKMTSS, where can they check to make sure that it's accessible before they submit it to you?
Where can they check?
Mm-hmm.
So give me 1 second to share my screen. Sorry, that is a good question. So I do believe for the conference, all these PowerPoints will be saved in the PowerPoint format. So if you make sure oh, sorry, give me 1 second. If you make sure that all of these are all checked off. See, even here I have one for subtitles. If you make sure all these are checked off, your PowerPoint should be accessible. Typically, PowerPoint does a really good job at making sure that there's nothing not left off on their checklist. The only thing that would be of concern is too much text because it doesn't pick that up. But their accessibility checker does a really good job of making sure that you are within the guidelines for accessibility. If you need, if you have any specific questions or if you need somebody to double check it, you can definitely send it to me and I can review it real quick and give you an okay. But this checker is pretty good on its own to make sure that it's accessible. Did that answer your question, Alexa?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any more questions? Well, thank you all for your time. I will send out this presentation video to you guys along with the slides, probably later today or the beginning of tomorrow. Thank you all for being here. If you have any more questions, feel free to contact me. But I'm looking forward to a more accessible future for all of us. So thank you all.